Well, it is 7 o'clock, so it's listener-supported WECI 91.5 F Richmond's 5 FM, Richmond's public radio. And my gosh, I've really got a full group tonight because I have like 16 people in the station waiting to read, but I'm gonna just sort of pick sort of different ones. Natasha Brody is first. She's going to be our first reader. And then we have, I know that there's a lot of fans on here, and he made his own meme, his advertising meme. Jeremy West, first time on the radio. Have you ever called into a radio show, Jeremy?
I've not called in. I was 19 and I was on G1013 for a minute. But
that's local. Yeah. That's here. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So kind of long. Listened last week and never a caller here, but on the radio. I know there's people from South Carolina, North Carolina, South Dakota, North Dakota.
We got them all over.
All over, and then Susan is back from last week, and she gets listeners everywhere too, and she's got a few states rounded up, so we're excited to hear from her. But it's a couple things. Natasha, welcome.
Thank you.
And Natasha said she has never been on the radio before, right?
Not in this capacity. I've called in to to a radio station where I grew up in Florida quite often because they had giveaways and things like that.
Do you ever win anything?
Oh yeah, absolutely, all the time. But like in this kind of capacity where I'm interviewing in a way, no, never.
We give nothing out here. Nothing. No, we do. And Aria and John are listening, just so you know. Mosey is going to be on the air coming up soon talking about Frank Sinatra. But I'm trying to think of what else to talk about. I just want to mention a couple things. So I went to Rashomon. Do you know what Rashomon is?
No.
So it's a Japanese movie out of 1954, Kurosawa. And I can't remember the woman's name. I think it was Tiffany. From the Japanese Studies program here at Earlham, did a talk about it and, give a little context to the movie. So Oblivion, and actually I'm going to say something, Natasha, to my own horn. Bill and Patrick from the matinee show were there, and because they heard it advertised on this show, so that's really good. But and then what Zach at Oblivion does is he only shows 16 millimeter films. So he's got the film in the back and he's showing it. So that's the kind of the original, we're talking,
the gritty version.
Yeah, right. So anyway, and it was in two parts, and anyways, really interesting. So that was at Oblivion. I'm trying to think of other things that have happened. We're coming up on spring, Natasha. Natasha, can I ask you a question? Where were you born? Because I only know you here. Were you born in Richmond, Indiana?
No. So I was originally born in the United States. I just don't live in the United States.
Right. No, I know. Where in the United States that we could pick a lot?
I was born in Texas, El Paso, Texas.
El Paso, Texas. Wow. And when did you leave there?
When I was about 4 or 5 years old.
On your own, or did your parents go with you?
I was with my parents, but I usually keep my personal and my private life quite private.
Okay, but you left with them, came where?
To Florida after that, and then kind of made my way up the East Coast until I left.
Where was the last place on the East Coast?
Usually it's New York. That's pretty much my
New
bag.
York City?
New York City.
You lived in New York City?
Yeah.
As a young adult in the family, or as a person in college?
When I was 19, I had first moved there. Then I moved out, and then I moved back in, and then I kind of flip-flopped back in.
Okay. Because I lived there from 2005 to 7 in Staten Island, but worked in the city.
Mm-hmm.
But you were probably there much after that.
No, 2005.
We
just missed it.
Oh my God. No, I do. Yes.
Walking down the street of Fifth Avenue.
Yeah. Well, if I can tell you something, it's kind of funny with New York, even Manhattan, New York City, whatever. It's a huge place.
Yeah.
But it's also small.
Yeah.
I have run into people who were just visiting, in a coffee shop, and you happen to be at that spot. So it's a great city. I was just there about a month ago, and then I can find it overwhelming. And we were just talking. You said, you're going to be leaving here
Yeah.
in a little bit, but you found a fondness for Richmond, Indiana.
Yeah, I did. I did. The community that I got involved in here, the writing community, which you're a part of, my church community, and then pretty much spanning out from the community built by NAACP. I think those three sects. Oh, and then my business development, because I started business, as you
Started
know.
your own tea
I started my
business.
own tea company. Yeah, those four areas, it made my 7 months here, well, soon to be 7 months here, pretty amazing, I think.
So when did you start? Right, I know that I gotta turn. I changed my phone, and the sounds on the notifications, and it cries like a cat, which is really interesting. But I hated the other one. So let's ask a little, since we're here, somewhat in the context of writers. When did you start writing? Were you like a little kid that just loved writing?
Yeah, I would say that my love for writing and probably even practice for writing started when I was in fourth grade, so what is that, 10 years old, something like that.
Yeah.
And we had read a book called The Winter of Red Snow, and this girl that was in that book kept a diary. So me, with my creative mind, I made a diary out of paper and cardboard, and I started keeping a
Oh my
diary.
gosh!
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. We just couldn't afford a lot of things, so I had to make it in order
You
to have
made
what I
your own
want.
diary.
I made my own
Wow.
diary. I remember I brought it to school, and then all the classmates were like, "Oh my God, that's so cool! She made her own book." And then I pretty much started like diligently writing from that age, and then it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And then maybe I would say the transition to do serious writing, like storybook writing and getting some books published, that came about my mid-20s. Yeah.
So did other kids think like you're pretty cool?
I think I had the coolness streak all the way up through high school, and then that kind of like died away, like
Okay,
it's
they didn't
not
like
cool
your
anymore.
makeshift diary.
No, I would say they did from elementary school, middle school, high school, because I was the creative one.
Okay.
And then I went to a school for creative people, so we were all pretty outliers, but
Got
we
it.
all had the same kind of mindset because we were all creative. But then when I went for college in New York, no, I was not cool.
Where did you go to college?
A tiny school that no one has ever heard of called Cooper Union. It's a
Everyone's heard of Cooper Union.
no one has heard of Cooper. You lived in New York, that's why you know Cooper Union.
Well, I know of Cooper Union. I'm trying to think now.
No one knows this school. It's okay, you guys, if you don't know this school, and if no
No, I
one
think
knows
they
it.
do. It's been around a while.
Oh yeah, since I think 1839 or something. Yeah, Peter
Okay,
Cooper.
I'm going to check something out because, and I'll tell you why in a second. So Cooper Union. Well, I'll tell you anyway because I'm looking up art colleges in New York City, but
It's a well-known
no,
art
she
college.
went to. Did she go to Pratt?
Pratt.
I'm not sure. I think it was Cooper Union. My grandmother on my mother's side went to art school.
Mm,
Now she would have been born in 1903, so she was going in like 1923.
mm-hmm.
But somewhere she went, it might have been Cooper Union.
Wow.
But I never, the funny thing about people, like we can talk, you're on the air, but like I don't know her story,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mhm.
unless I, get a medium, I'm not gonna, and there might be a way to find. It's hard though. So my point is, but I think so. But I'll find out more. So I do know Cooper Union. It might even be in my DNA.
Might even be in your DNA. Yeah.
But yeah, cool. So you're there. You're creative. It's clear you're creative because I've seen your tea company and the stuff you've done with that. What kinds of stuff were you writing?
Back then at Cooper, my writing, Cooper Union, it's a school for engineering, architecture, and art. I don't know if it's changed in the last 20 years, but that's what it was 20 years ago.
Say that again.
It's a school for engineering, architecture, and art.
Okay.
And I was in the art school, so it was pretty much all the visual arts that you can think of. So it really wasn't writing. However, I had a writing component to the majority of my art that
Okay.
I would do. And the art that I was doing really focused on the Black experience, being a Black person, what it was like trying to navigate that space. But for me in particular, because my background is Caribbean, I always had this tension between, I was born in the United States as a Black American, but my roots are all Caribbean.
Mhm.
So how do I navigate that space when I'm in dialogues that I don't feel like I could participate here in the United States? However, I am born in the United States,
Right,
so where do
interesting.
I place myself there? So most of my writing was exploring and navigating that space, and then the art that I was creating was pretty much visually projecting that in photography, in painting. I came in as a painter,
Mhm.
a little bit in drawing, but I think mostly in photography, especially towards the end.
Okay. And so photography, painting, you said you came in as
Mm. Mm.
what to get to the writing then? Like were you
Mm.
journaling? You said you kept a diary.
Yeah.
But you said diary, not journal.
Oh, journal.
But which
Yeah.
is fine. I mean
Yeah.
it could be different. You know, diaries like dear diary, I
Yeah.
mean I don't know, and that's the same. But do you journal regularly?
All the time. I can't navigate without journaling.
Oh really?
Yeah. It would be too many thoughts stored in my head, and then all of my loved ones would be attacked by those thoughts. The amount that they get attacked by the thoughts with me journaling would
Mhm.
be tantamount to absolute emotional outburst for them if I didn't put most of that inside of a journal. Yeah.
Okay, and you do that like every morning, every night? I mean, you said you do it all the time, but
Yeah.
is there also like, you know, what's her name? Artist Way does, you know, morning pages, although I'm
Mm.
sure you could do them anytime. But, you know, Julia Cameron. But when do you do that? Do you
Mhm.
do you have a journal with you?
Yeah, so sometimes I write it on my phone,
Okay.
which means that I can be somewhere a thought will hit, and then I will stop and I will journal to myself that thought out. Or if I know I have like a very long thought process for that particular concept, I most likely will probably wait till the evening and then I will write it out thoroughly.
When you say write it out,
Yeah.
is it on paper with a pen and pencil?
Sometimes. So this amazing iPod, which I did not know, had something called Notes, and it takes down a physical or this kind of digital pen type of thing.
Okay. Oh yeah, yeah.
So I
okay.
found that out last year and I started using that to journal. But before that, because of probably my childhood journaling, sometimes I have to physically write out that thought. It won't work if I type. And then
Yeah,
vice versa.
I journal. I use a pen. I have specific pens. I actually, and I went to El Rodeo and they didn't have any left. But there's certain places that sometimes have these pens I like. I
Yeah.
don't know why. But I also have cross pens I like. They're just old fashioned. That metal kind of but nice solid pen.
Yeah.
And I try to journal. But the writing, they say, the physical writing, I do my writing on a computer. Like,
Mm.
and part of that is I have draft after draft after draft, you know, and I save them. But there is something to that.
Yeah,
pen
the
and
tactile.
paper or pencil and paper or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, and one last question, then we'll get to your reading because you said it's about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Do you still that first makeshift journal,
Hmm.
like Thor Heyerdahl's Kon-Tiki? Do you still have that journal?
I do.
You do.
Yeah.
That's so great. That's great. I'll tell you a quick story, and then we'll get to your thing. But a friend of mine who's like now 70 had this. His father died when he was like 5, and he was doing a talk about all these things in his life, and he brought up this book. I can't remember what it's called. It's like Love Is Anywhere. Or but he had been given at age 5, and he had just went through it and went through it and went through it and read it over and over, and still had it. And it's just, you know, to have that
Yeah.
now. You're not 70, but one day, you know, and you'll have that little makeshift.
Yeah. Maybe even publish it.
Yeah, and somebody will go like, "What?" Or it'll be in a museum somewhere. Look at that, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. Okay, so Natasha Brody, let's get to some. You got about what is it that you're going to read? Tell me, give me a little preface to it.
Yeah, so I was trying to figure out the best way to introduce this piece because I'm not starting from chapter 1. I'm
Okay.
starting from what I believe is still going to be chapter 14.
Okay.
And it is a book that I've been writing for a few years now, in
Okay.
a way. And this chapter is a pivotal moment where the story takes a dramatic turn.
Okay.
But because I think it would have some trigger aspects, I cut it off right before the triggers.
Okay. Okay, we're not gonna get there. Kind of like not the shower scene in Dallas or something somewhere. But let me just preface this.
Mm.
A couple questions. Where does it take place?
This takes place in even though I hate the term, I really do hate the term, but almost like in a parallel universe to ours,
Okay.
in a parallel country to ours in the United States,
Okay.
but with two particular nationalities. One nationality is from the Caribbean,
Okay.
and another nationality is from the Pacific Islands. And those particular two nationalities are critical for the two characters in the story who are friends and have those nationalities.
One has one has the other.
Exactly.
Okay. And do we need to know anything more? Because this is chapter 14. We're already well along if we've been reading. Do we need to know anything more? Do you need to set up anything more for listeners, or are they ready to go?
I hope I don't need to set up anything more, because the fact that I'm jumping in at 14 means that there are going to be blank spots, but the intention behind the particular character that you're going to be following, I think it will be clear, at least, or at least I'm hoping for the listeners
What's
that it will be clear.
person's name?
Tara.
Tara. Okay.
Yes.
So Natasha Brody.
Yes.
What's the name? Is there a name for the bigger piece or the smaller piece?
Yes, there's a name for the bigger piece. The bigger piece is called The Color of Stone Blue. And then this chapter is called Mrs. Breyer's Secret.
Okay, so Natasha Brody with Mrs. Breyer's Secret.
Chapter
right?
14. As the front door shut with a click, its small echo reverberated off the cobble pavement. Tara stepped back, but his left hand was still clutching the knob, heating the metal despite the wind nipping at his knuckles in the twilight. A horribly familiar stinging sensation was making his eyes twitch. As though on cue, the knob began to shake. Nothing I would say could walk me back past this door again, Tara responded bitterly. He released the knob and stood drenched in the porch light as though under further interrogation. Shadows of palm trees, illuminated by the towering lamppost, were dancing on the walls of his home, his father's home. Franz fingered all sorts of provoking gestures towards him in patterns of silent mockery. He closed his eyes as though to wield them to his will. Think, he commanded of himself, but his thoughts were relentless in responding with the latest scenes from the night's affairs. A tumbling bundle of bushy curls blinded him, and without thinking, Tara grabbed the doorknob again. But then, a frigid, stoning monument held a scorching gaze directed mercilessly at him in his mind's eye. As if burnt by the mere memory of his dad's glare, he dropped his shaking hand in surrender, and his feet carried him past the estate's iron garden gate. Hitching his backpack more securely on his shoulder, Tara pulled the latch of the heavy lock closed as gently as he could, so as not to disturb the evening quiet resting peacefully on the homes of the residents in the cul-de-sac. The well-lit neighborhood of East Barston was pleasantly unaware that it had just lost one of its occupants. On the other hand, its buzzing mosquitoes were viciously determined to compete with the noise fighting inside Tara's head. He just couldn't go to his uncle's place. What scolding would he bring in the presence of his cousins? They all adorned him, but would they still after this? A mental scrolling list eliminating alternative nearby relatives accompanied him as he made his way through the street-lit neighborhood to Yarmouth Park. He needed to reach the park before nightfall to avoid taking the longer route now imposed due to selective closures. Yarmouth should still be opened at this time. Legally, he snarled to himself, as a foggy image of a bigger, thicker, and taller Tara punched the life out of an approaching arresting guard's head. Then, the fantasy was eclipsed by a tumbling bundle of bushy curls. There was no way that Tara would be able to stay at Cricket's house, even if it were just for a night. In spite of their recent disastrous blunder, The childhood duo was too old for sleepovers to be seen now as endearingly innocent by their respective families. An echo of his father's angry voice haunted him. "There can be only one man in this house!" If he had only heard what Cricket did. So, one by one, Tara juggled with which other friend's family would be most likely to take him in for the night so that he could figure out a way to approach his uncle later. He was reaching the mouth of the neighborhood. It was nearly 7 o'clock. If he went right, he would be staking his imposition on the strength of his friendship with Kirk. Americans, Tara sighed fondly. They really are the best for times like these. No rules. But if he went left, too many mistakes had been made in such a short amount of time. Going right was right. Reaching for his phone, he tapped a quick plea to his friend, thinking there would be enough time to get a response if he kept a steady pace in the right direction anyways. Should the worst happen, and Tara receive no response, then he would simply throw caution to the wind and show up unannounced at his uncle's home. Blood is thicker than water, isn't that what we're taught? He was finally at the kissing gate of Yarmouth Park, just a little after 7 p.m. For some reason, both wings of the gate were still unlocked. Feeling grateful, Tara pushed the left one forward and headed to the right. As he moved past the woodwork, the bushy bundle of tangling branches adorning the entrance clawed him. Freeing himself, he put one foot in front of the other, and in front of the other, then the other, right through the park toward the exit on the left. He made his way along the bank of Lake Endora. As he made his way along the bank of Lake Endora, he saw on his right that new tractors had been put into place since his and Cricket's detainment. That's the problem with developers, Tara seized resentfully, pace quickening. They come and claim land that has already been collectively owned for years. The fullness of night had fallen by the time Tara arrived at Cricket's home. He had never been there this late on his own, but how much more damage could he possibly ascertain should something else happen? This time, he had a good plan. He would just stop by the front door and simply apologize to Mrs. Briar, and then just casually ask how Cricket is doing at 7:30 at night. Tara shook his head, and his phone buzzed. Kirk finally replied, "Bring Doritos." Tara laughed as he strolled closer to his destination. He saw his future self sneaking up to Cricket's window, hoping, in spite of all likelihood, that Cricket would not jump and call out in fright. What were the chances? Slim, Tara reasoned. But there was no other way forward, unless he could just leave and see her at school tomorrow. Responsible, very responsible. So why were his feet past the driveway already? "This is your choice to carry on like you're a grown man at 16. You can take an early departure and go." Pushing his dad out of his mind, he made a mental note to stop by the store on the way to Kirk's home. The Briar house was lost in the darkness, but a glow on its ackee trees in the south gave Tara hope. What must this look like to the nosy neighboring eye? A tall, dark figure approaching the window of a girl's room, he thought. But a reckless bidding nudged him closer to Cricket's window. "This is a bad idea," kept motivating his retreat. But for some reason, his feet advanced further and further south, well past the driveway. One foot in front of the other, and in front of the other, and in front of the other, until the crescendo of a uniquely severe pattern split the distant air with audible cracks. For a moment, Tara froze, but the night was too chilly to stand still. Tara slipped up to the edge of the south side of the Briar house. Barely perceptible to where he stood was the muffled voice of a heated woman who was sharply yelling with fluidity. Cautiously, Tara crept towards the edge of Cricket's window, all thoughts but one removed. Please don't let the white neighbor see me. Crack, crack, crack! Something sharp sliced into his chest, and he dropped to his knees as perfectly clear and scathing speech followed him to the ground. And that is all I will give you from chapter 14.
And that makes us want to read more, doesn't it?
I would certainly hope so.
Yeah, great job.
Thank you.
And so chapter 14, how many chapters do you know?
I think 32.
Okay, so we're midway.
Yeah.
All right, wow. And tell me the name of the bigger piece.
Of where this is coming from?
Yes,
The Color of Stone Blue.
The Color of Stone Blue. And this is going to be a full-length novel.
This is, so the way that this is set up, there's two books in a way, two systems in a way. This is one book that is written for, want of a better word, for adults.
Okay.
And then I have another children's series that's linked to this book that is also in development. And so there will be parts of this book that will not be fully fleshed out unless you read the children's book, and vice versa.
Look at you, just...
That's why it's taking some years to get this all done.
Yeah, well, great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. Natasha Brody, she can, yeah. Are you going to stay and listen to Jeremy?
I'm staying for
and
the whole
Susan?
thing.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Give my fellow writers support.
Okay, great. Well, great to have you here.
Thank
Well,
you, Steve.
'cause Jeremy West, do you know, have you ever heard of him?
No, I don't
I
think
know
so.
that's the thing. Like, yeah, but he has a fan club like a rant. I didn't know it, and then all of a sudden he put stuff up today that he's coming on the show, and like, I mean, people all over the place were just commenting.
Wow.
Yeah, no, he's so it's great. It's great to have you here, and we'll see you before you go. We know
Yes,
that.
definitely.
Yeah, 'cause we have a writers thing the 24th at IUEast with KT Lowe. So
Yeah.
okay, Jeremy, you want to